Hadouken!
Power up!
Get over here!
Hello again, people of YouTube. This is the Reverend.
The theme here.
And Graymouse won.
The three middle-aged guys, or three middle-aged dudes just bullshitting about nothing. And we're going to revisit an old topic. We are actually going to talk about the Final Fantasy VII Remake. I wish I had positive energy to ride into this particular one. This is what happened. April 11th, the beginning of this week, on Game Informer, they published an article entitled 10 Questions and Answers about the Final Fantasy VII Remake, because they had a chance to sit down with the producers of Final Fantasy VII. The producers over there at Square Enix who are actually working on the Final Fantasy Remake. And a lot of details came to light. Let me go ahead and actually share with you right now what the actual article looks like and point out some of the parts that were really troubling as a result. Okay? So this is GameInformer.com. Like I said, 10 questions about and answers about the Final Fantasy VII Remake. There they have Girly Looking Cloud. They have their intro thing, and the first few things that they asked is that, fluff questions. Fans were looking for the Final Fantasy VII Remake for years. What changed that made you say that now was a good time? And their whole thing was like, yeah, the guy the producer who's working on the Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is, I believe, let's see here. Where's his name? Oh, Yoshinori Kitase. Okay. He's the executive producer in charge of the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Mm-hmm. He went ahead and he started answering questions. He was like, yeah, I did the 13 series, all the development over 10 years, and I really needed to move on to something new. Of course, the funny thing about Final Fantasy 15, that was supposed to be part of the 13 series of games. They went ahead and they split it off into something else. And I don't blame the development team for feeling a little bit of burnout. They decided to go off and do other things. Okay? Now, this is when it starts getting interesting. They asked, when the remake was first announced, there was some confusion among fans about its multi-part format. Is comparing it to Final Fantasy 13, the Final Fantasy 13 saga, fair in that regard? Will each entry level have that kind of scope? Okay, and then he answered, it will essentially be a full-scale game for each part of the multi-part series. In 13, each installment told the story from a different angle. It's kind of like approaching an unknown territory in a sense, whereas with Final Fantasy VII Remake, we already have a pre-existing story, so it really wouldn't make sense if that isn't encompassed in the multi-part series. And it wouldn't make sense to remake it if we don't encompass that entire story. With regards to current HD capacity and volume, the idea is that we wouldn't be able to encompass it all in just in one installment. So if we're just looking at each of these parts, one part would be on par with the scale of the Final Fantasy VII game. All right. For everybody who thought, like ourselves, that they were saying multiple installments, like episodic games, like the Telltale games, The Walking Dead, what else? Game of Thrones, The Wolf Among Us, or even Square Enix own, Life is Strange, where everybody was thinking, hey, they're going to give us an episode for like $10 a piece, and it's going to span like maybe a few hours. We wait a month, and then we see another one. Basically, he just shit all over that idea. This is a reason why that's the case. He mentioned Final Fantasy XIII Saga. The Final Fantasy XIII Saga, and I remember it being announced back in 2005, 2006. I was there at E3 when they went ahead and they unveiled the footage and everything else. I was sitting there in the Square Theater. They called it Final Fantasy 13, the Final Crystallis Fabula Nova, or something like that, right? It was going to be 3 parts of Final Fantasy 13, and then there was going to be the Final Fantasy Versus series, okay, which ended up turning into Final Fantasy 15, okay. They were going to have 5 fucking games all under the Final Fantasy 13 banner, okay. Guess what? All of them cost full fucking retail price.
Mm-hmm.
All of them have their own fucking DLC, okay, and they're going to go ahead and apply that same market structure to the Final Fantasy VII Remake. So the folks who are hoping to only have to wait, maybe ride the wave out for 6 months to a year and part with around $60 of their hard-earned cash, maybe a little bit of DLC hors d'oeuvres here and there. Square Enix went ahead and they came out, they're like, sorry, but fuck you. And that's not happening.
Well, with that, right, Final Fantasy VII, the original game, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, was 3 discs.
Yeah.
Now, so...
And the majority of that was video, full motion video.
Absolutely. So, and, they've already said that they're going to tweak the storyline, this, and this, right? So, ultimately, I'm paying $60 times 3 in order to get the complete Final Fantasy VII Remake experience.
Hold that thought, though, because here's the thing. All right.
Wait, there's more.
Yes, indeed. There's more. The scary part about that is this. Kitase was asked the question, so have you decided how many installments there will be? Yeah, we have no idea on the project side in terms of how many installments it may consist, but unfortunately, we can't share that at the moment. Of course, we're creating and developing the scenario of the stories. These are things that move in real time, so the plan may change along the way. But that said, we do have a vision of how many installments it will consist of.
Well, I'm glad they do.
There will be 7.
I don't think
I'm calling it right now.
I don't think it's going to be that damn many. But the thing is, though, if they're going to charge us gamers, $60 full price for a freaking part 1 or whatever, it better be freaking 40 to 60 to 80 hours. Being a Final Fantasy is 60, 80 hours to complete the game 100% with, side quests beside, But anyway, I don't see it going for 7.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
I don't.
why are they disclosing this?
Yeah, I mean, because the scary thing about it, and let me go back to sharing that fucking article. All right, is that
they're
yes,
talking me out of getting the Final Fantasy VII Remake is what's happening here.
Okay, one of the things that they mentioned is that let's see here. After how many installments, the guys at Game Informer asked, the compilation of Final Fantasy VII added new wrinkles of story and lore behind the game. How is the team approaching the integration of those new elements into the remake? When they're talking about the compilation, they're talking about Dirge of Cerberus, Final Fantasy Crisis Core, all the other spin-off games. Okay, so this Final Fantasy remake is not just going to encompass the core 3 fucking discs on, let's see here, where are you, motherfucker? This motherfucker, all right? They are going to try to encompass and squeeze in everything in the Final Fantasy compilation. All right.
And the animations.
What's up?
No, so you're telling me that they're going to squeeze in from the anime and the games, and they're trying to squeeze all this on top of the Final Fantasy VII original storyline?
No, I think mostly the games that they published. Like I said, the stuff from like Dirge of Cerberus and also Crisis Core. All right, the actual games, the other games that were attached to Final Fantasy VII.
So
Okay.
what? Zach's going to be a freaking playable character?
Or they're gonna address him. He's gonna have a chapter someplace.
Got to.
Yeah.
You know, otherwise, it wouldn't make sense.
You know?
I mean, and look, that bitch better die. That's all I got to say.
Oh, no,
But
she'll
wait.
die, but you'll wait.
But wait, there's more.
Yeah, she'll die, but
No.
you'll Phoenix down her.
Okay, all right. Okay, let's see here. Okay. Here's the thing. All right. Okay, not many creators have the chance to revisit a previous title like this. For you personally, is there any aspect of Final Fantasy VII that you're looking forward to bringing back to life? Okay, and they asked again, so even if you're familiar with the story, is there still an opportunity to surprise? And his answer was, definitely. We have archived versions of our games, and a lot of times people buy them and it starts off with nostalgia. But after that, you're essentially following the story you already know. That experience starts to diminish as you proceed through the game, and the interest level starts to decline. If it's just nostalgia, it's just a matter of following the story. And there wouldn't be any surprises. So in that case, we want to balance out the areas we would like to change versus the areas we don't in order to have that nostalgia, but also the surprises. Do you see the larger iconic plot points as an opportunity to surprise fans, or are there things that you and the team consider untouchable? I, along with Nomura-san and Kazushige Nojima-san, were involved with the remake, were involved with the original Final Fantasy VII. We were the people who created it. So in that sense, we don't think anything is untouchable. That isn't to say we're changing everything.
What I don't understand about this is that
Motherfuckers are still rushing out there to go ahead and line up and pre-order this piece of shit.
Well,
Wait, I said that out loud, didn't I? Yes, I did.
one thing is that Aerith dying is part of the plot.
Wait.
You're going to have to change. Look, hang on. You're going to have to change like 2 discs of information, of storyline, if she survives.
It doesn't matter if they're going to sit there and make it like 3 or 4 fucking full games.
Oh, my God.
Okay. What I was about to say is just simply this. There are remakes and remasters of games all the time where they don't change the fucking story. Yes, there'll maybe be a director's cut where they put extra shit in. But if for something like this, they just want it remade in today's graphics. They didn't want a total ramp of the game. Yes, because you change the story, then it's not Final Fantasy VII anymore.
Yep.
It's something else. Or if you
I agree with
wait, if Aerith is the one that kills Sephiroth at the end,
well, I agree with
and sacrifices herself.
I agree with the
I can't even fucking say that with a straight face.
I agree with the publisher, right? I mean, I understand what he's saying. I kind of understand that if it's a remake, a true remake,
But that's what they wanted.
No, I know, but he's saying that you'll play it for a couple of hours, and then the nostalgic. It's just only natural that your nostalgia will wear down, and it'll just come to a grind. But I think what the producer is forgetting is that, just like you said, Theme, people didn't want a rehash of the story. They didn't want anything added to the story. They just wanted the experience Final Fantasy. They wanted to keep everything intact the way it was released back in 1997. Now, for them to add, I mean, it's nice that you had these other, Crisis Core and all these other background stories, prequels and sequels of Final Fantasy VII, but to take that and just cram it into the game on top of the original story and display and sell it as 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 40 freaking copies, this is just, people didn't ask for that. And again, I have to say this again, I've said it in my previous videos, you must always be careful for what you ask for. Because you may get what you asked for, but you would also have all this bullshit in between. And that's what it's turning into. Because, I mean, we've all seen the trailer. We've all seen people crying when this was announced at E3. People were in tears, along with the Shenmue 3, but people were in tears. They're like, finally, we've been asking for this for so long. Now you're taking us completely out of that, and you're telling us, no, don't worry, everything's going to be here. And then you're going against those, a month or 2 months later, saying, yeah, nothing's untouchable. We've decided that to make the game the best game of Final Fantasy VII, we're going to add all this to it, take away from this, add this, because no, you're losing people. I'm one of them. I mean, I'm not going. If this keeps up, if we don't know how many discs there are going to be, I'm just going to freaking wait. I'm just going to wait until they all came out, and then I'm going to buy it on a bargain bin for $30. So, or $20, because you're gonna change the way this article reads. You're going to change so much of the original context of the game. It's not even going to be Final Fantasy VII anymore.
Quick question. What if some of those things you can only get digitally?
That's
like DLC.
They did not say it was going to be disc or physical. They have not said that. They've kept tight lips on that. That's a valid question. It's valid. And it very well, to me, it would make more sense to be digital because you can update it easier that way instead of mass producing discs. And I didn't think about that until here recently, until they started saying it's going to be episodic. And
Season pass, Final Fantasy VII Remake, $150.
More like 180.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
If you're
150 for discount for those
that's
who
just saying
early.
That's just saying if it's 3 discs, that's $180.
Yeah.
That's it. But if you're saying 7, that's $540.
People will be paying enough. People will be paying enough to pay that.
It's too much money. I could buy a medium-end computer for that much.
Fuck
And
that. Give me an arcade cabinet.
I could play a Final Fantasy VII the way it's supposed to be played on the original disc for that. I could buy a PlayStation and about 30 copies of the original game.
Okay, I'm going to say something that's either going to get us a lot of fucking downvotes or a lot of hate commentary, all right?
Do it. I'm not scared of downvotes.
Look,
Right.
people, Final Fantasy VII, it did something great for the JRPG market. It broke it out from it being a niche market in the United States. And it broke it wide open so that other titles could go ahead and bring themselves over here to the States, all right? But you can also trace the failure and the decline of the JRPG genre as a whole with the rise and decline of Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy as a whole is the most overrated fucking RPG series on earth.
It has 15.
It's final
oxymoron.
Final oxymoron. Look, Adam Sandler made a shitload of movies. He's not the best fucking comedian out there, okay? Final Fantasy VII is not the best fucking RPG out there, all right? And the reason why they're going to be there, they've got it in their dumb fucking heads that they even got a chance to go ahead and pawn this shit off to you is because you've been climbing around. You're the Final Fantasy. You're the Final Fantasy. I want to go ahead and fucking material. I want to go ahead and play Sephiroth. Give me one wing angle. Fuck. That's the reason why this is happening, people. Look, I will admit, when I purchased my PlayStation 1 originally, all right, there were a few things that I had in mind. I wanted Tekken 2, and I wanted Final Fantasy 7, all right? Guess what? I bought Final Fantasy 7, and then a week later, I also bought Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Yes. I finished Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I played that multiple times. I haven't finished Final Fantasy fucking 7, all right?
Damn.
And one of the bad parts about it is that I was surrounded by the fucking drones and sheeple who couldn't fucking shut the fuck up about it. All right. And I couldn't get away from it. How the fuck was I going to, enjoy the story when every fucking 5 minutes I turned around and one of my coworkers or one of my buddies or somebody on fucking line, and this is back in 1997 when fucking online wasn't all that big in people's homes, were talking about, oh man, I cried when Eric died. Oh, did you see what happened with Clown when he got sucked into the live stream? Fuck! No, it's not that good of an RPG. In fact, if you break the words down, role-playing game, there's no actual role-playing in it. Okay? Now, one of the things about Final Fantasy VII, and you people got to thank yourselves for this, is that one of the reasons why all of Square Enix's subsequent Final Fantasy games have not been so original and have been so fucking lackluster and so lacking in actual content and quality story is because they keep trying to go back and replicating what the fuck they did with that goddamn game. All right? When, guess what? The majority of you, that was your first fucking RPG that you even fucking played.
Right.
Okay? You went ahead and you saw really pretty CGI graphics because you decided to go ahead and put fucking Madden down for 2 minutes.
And
Guess what? This bullshit is your fucking fault.
Well, I mean,
That's what I gotta say. Ending the sermon.
it's the there are so many better Final Fantasies. I mean, you got Final Fantasy VIII, which is
So many
great.
better RPGs.
So many better role-playing games.
Yeah, I was getting to that. I mean, you got all these different art. Star Ocean comes to mind. I love that game. That's a JRPG. You know, you got Bravely Default. That's a JRPG.
Look, if the Final Fantasy staff, all right, the amount of fucking resources, the A+ resources of Square Enix were actually broken off and were able to work on other fucking projects other than something that doesn't have the words Final or fucking Fantasy in the game, maybe Square Enix would have a great, huge fucking library of alternate titles that they can go ahead and turn around to. But no, the only fucking thing that seems to make any fucking money is Final Fantasy. Even when they go ahead and he mentioned Final Fantasy 13 as far as, one of the last it's actually the last big fucking console release. And that's 10 years of fucking tripe and walking down fucking hallways. All right?
Sounding like a coconut when she walks. But anyway. But Square Enix or Squaresoft, whatever they're called nowadays, they need to take lessons from Atlas. I mean, look at the games that Atlas has. Look at the wide variety of games Atlas has. Some may not be, you may not like some of them, but you like others. It's not Square Enix. It's just they're stuck on Final Fantasy, and it's going to continue to go as long as people keep buying Final Fantasies.
It's not that they are stuck on Final Fantasy. Everyone else
is stuck.
on Final
Yeah,
Fantasy.
I guess that's better.
If the fans as a whole would sit there and just like think of this as the Square Enix equivalent to the WWE, okay? If the fans as a whole sat there and said, hey, this is the same old bullshit you've been feeding us for the last fucking decade. We're not going to go ahead and patronize this shit. You think Square Enix would go ahead and actually keep on pumping this shit out? No. All right?
Well, see, one thing that you got to take in consideration, though, is that, yes, in the Western side, in the Western world, yes, however, in Japan, Final Fantasy is the top fucking RPG. For Christ's sake, I lived there for 20-something years.
What else is there?
Well, you got Star Ocean. You got other.
No, look,
Here's
what
what
happened
the
was that its main fucking competition ended up jumping into their
Exactly. This is what the
fucking their
Reverend is
insane
saying.
bed.
This is what the Reverend is saying. Square Enix had a lot more. They had a lot more weapons.
Yeah.
That they could fucking use. They had more even RPGs. A lot more of them that they could fucking make. Chrono Trigger, anyone?
You know,
If-
there used to be a point in time where if Square Enix made something besides an RPG, that it was actually really fucking good, and people were looking forward to it.
Exactly. But now, when you mention Square,
Kingdom Hearts. I mean, that's Square Enix.
but the thing about it is, once you mention Square Enix, you immediately think Final Fantasy.
Final Fantasy, yeah.
And,
I mean, they're not.
and for the most part, you think of Final Fantasy VII. And even though Final Fantasy fans and fanboys would have a big ass argument about which is the best Final Fantasy, you know, either it's yay or nay on Final Fantasy VII, but 7 always gets fucking mentioned.
Yeah.
And now, since they're going to be doing things this way, and things could be changed, or maybe you have to pay $200 for the full fucking game, as much as a fucking console, or are they going to throw any VR shit in it? We don't know. Or you get PlayStation Move and camera and all that shit. Summon, you know, Phoenix Down. If they do that shit, I'm telling you, they most likely will probably do something like that. But people were on Final Fantasy VII's Nizisms for just about 2 fucking decades. And you couldn't go anywhere as a gamer without fucking hearing it. I remember Final Fantasy VII was the equivalent of Titanic the movie. They came out basically at the same time, and you couldn't go anywhere without hearing that Celine Dion shit, or you couldn't go anywhere as a gamer without seeing Final Fantasy. And then Final Fantasy VIII, and then Final Fantasy IX, and a full motion video, full motion video, full motion video. I'm like, look, just get to the fucking game. Get to the fucking story. But now they're going to extend the story. They're going to change the story around. Aerith is going to kill Sephiroth at the end and kill herself.
I don't know. We don't know. That's the whole thing. And but they've from the get go.
Or okay, wait, have Cloud Killer then.
Well, the thing that a lot of people have to realize from the get go, Square Enix pretty much said, "Hey, look, you guys want a Final Fantasy remake, an updated version. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna make it." And right when they started out the next sentence with, "It's gonna be multi-part," everything was gonna be fucking changed. Nothing was gonna be like what they originally remember about that 1996 fucking release. All right, or 1997 fucking release.
97.
All right, it's almost 20 years old now. Okay, nothing was gonna be like that. Right from the jump. Okay. People still held out hope. A lot of people were fucking smiling.
But the thing about it is, certain people were just like, "Oh no, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't change everything. They wouldn't fuck up the whole game in the story. No, they have to keep that shit the same. They wouldn't do that."
Yeah, they would. Yeah, they would. That's the thing. I mean, again, the funny thing about this is that I really don't feel like, after thinking about all of this and I've let all of that out, I really don't think that Yoshinori Kitase, the producer of the Final Fantasy VII Remake, the creative guy behind it, okay, I really don't think he's doing anything wrong, all right, because he's giving fans exactly what the fuck they're asking for.
Yeah.
You know, they wanted more of it. Guess what? They're going to have multiple fucking full-price games for it. Okay? That's it is what it is, and I'm not on that train. You know, I'm not on the rail to Midgard. You know, that's just how it fucking is right now.
It's funny how this totally overshadows World of Final Fantasy.
You know, here's the thing. After Final Fantasy VII hit, every JRPG had to be like Final Fantasy VII in order to be successful. This is the worst thing that a lot of people have not considered, okay, and a lot of people don't talk about, all right? In order for a AAA, considered a AAA fucking JRPG to come out, they had to go ahead and invest exorbitant amounts into heavy CGI, elaborate cutscenes, all this sort of shit, okay? And it turned a lot of the JRPGs, from whatever little role-playing that was left, was, you know, meted away to make space for a high-def fucking video, all right?
Mm-hmm.
For really pretty, you know, CGI cutscenes. You know, if you want a fucking example, just fuck, even from around the same era, you know, and it's a good thing that the producer went ahead and he separated himself from Square, but fucking look at Xenogears, all right, from the PlayStation 1. If they had the same fucking resources as Final Fantasy VII, you wouldn't have to worry about spending 15 minutes reading through fucking walls of text, all right? And then hoping that you didn't miss the 2 fucking sentences that actually told you where to fucking go next. All right?
Some people complain about QuickTime events. And
Well, I mean, Final Fantasies have always been like that. You know, even back in the original days, Final Fantasy 1 through 3 and 4, 5, 6, they've always had, in fact, they added the gameplay that you could actually learn a word and then you could like repeat it back to another NPC and it flows the storyline. So I'm not, I don't know, maybe that we just need a Final Fantasy that goes back to the 8-bit type of gaming would probably, or they just need to say, look, we've done Final Fantasy 1 through 15 and then like spin-offs for 15 or for 13, spin-off for 10, spin-off for 12, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. But maybe it's just time to bury that horse because it's been kicked to death. That horse.
No, people still go head over heels and celebrate when a Final Fantasy is announced, pretty much. And even if it's something that it looks not the same Final Fantasy, as people would still give it a chance because it says Final Fantasy on it. It is their cash cow.
I agree with what the Reverend said, was that it's wrong for Square Enix to or for any publisher for that matter, is to model their RPG after Final Fantasy VII. That's definitely not something that would be a role.
Most fighting games modeled themselves after Street Fighter. Most beat 'em ups model themselves after Double Dragon to a certain point.
Yeah, but the thing is that there aren't 50 fucking titles out there connected to Final Fantasy in some form or another. All right, this is the thing with the Final Fantasy games. All right, is that there were a lot of Final Fantasy titles as it was before Final Fantasy VII. All right, after Final Fantasy VII hit, up until this point, there's like I think there's over 60 fucking connected titles.
Well, one thing too is like you're saying, Final Fantasy VII was the first Final Fantasy that introduced full motion video. Now, the other Final Fantasy titles that I thoroughly enjoy, especially my favorite Final Fantasy, is Final Fantasy Tactics, which still kind of it still has Final Fantasy in it, but it's completely different from any of the other Final Fantasies. Actually, I think the Tactics was more modeled after Ogre Tactics.
Ogre
Tactics, depending on which. So, I mean, there are that are not Final Fantasy games.
Yeah,
but they need to bury that horse. It's dead. You know, we're gonna go up to 15, and there's no how many copies are going to be on Final Fantasy VII Remake. They just need to quit. You know, I mean, they have successes with MMOs. You know, Final Fantasy 11 and Final Fantasy 14. Final Fantasy 11, people are still playing that shit.
Yep.
And you got Final Fantasy 14, people are still playing that shit. From what I heard, is actually good after the last. There was an update. There's a new or reborn, whatever, and it's spectacular, is what I've heard. But I just don't want to pay that fucking fee, that $15 Warcraft fee every month. No, I'm not doing that. Sorry.
That's something that I just thought about too. What if you have to pay a fee to play it online or multiplayer?
Well, it better not be a multiplayer. There's no reason for it to be a multiplayer.
Yeah, there is for motherfuckers. Hey, we're living in an online age where people.
It's not an MMO.
I understand that, but
in that same article, they were, and also another article in the printed Game Informer thing. They were very open about the fact that combat is based off of Dissidia, which is basically their Final Fantasy fighting game or action title.
I thought it was more modeled after Titan Zero.
No, they said that they're modeling it more after Dissidia.
Well, Final Fantasy 15 is they don't have turn-based either, so.
Yeah. So.
A lot of people are not going to get the game just on that regard alone, that it's not turn-based.
Yeah. Well, no.
It's not what. Like I said earlier, this video, we're running out of time here. Yeah. So my closing thoughts is that I told you guys to be careful what you asked for. Now you're getting what you're asked for, and now you're complaining. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
In this day and age, people still won't take responsibility.
And that's exactly what this is.
Any thoughts, Theme, to close us out?
Yeah, I just leveled out. I just gave my thoughts on it. It's just, yeah, it's pretty. Wow, yeah.
Look, here's how it is. All right. I am not on board the train to Midgard. All right. And for the folks who are, and if you're going to go ahead and entertain that, well, expect more of it. Unfortunately, there's a reason why this is here in the market. All right.
Especially if it becomes successful, expect more beloved franchises to run the same scheme.
And other companies follow suit. Come on. Wake up. That's the way it is.
You know, I mean, I can go on. I could really go on. But we've got less than a minute left. Thank you for staying with us for the last almost 40 minutes, folks. Hit like, hit subscribe. You know, if you're so kind. We're the three middle-aged dudes. I'm the Reverend.
Theme here.
And Graymouse 1. Hey, we want to read your comments, so please.
Once again, for the benefits of common sense, logic, and episodic bullshit gaming. Credits.
Final Fantasy is over fucking rated.